MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Pace, and welcome back to everyone who's already a subscriber to the show. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews like the one coming at you right now. Two-time champ Alaina Dutill back on the show to talk about not one, but two title fights she has coming up. Alaina, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you.
It's great having you back on the show. The last couple of times you were on, we talked about really wanting to bring you back several more times, throughout your career. Really, I'm honored to have you back on MMA Fancast to continue following you through your career. You definitely have a very exciting mix between MMA and also Muay Thai. The first fight we're going to talk about is for Maverick 27, which is March 23rd, and that's for the 115-pound belt. You have a record in MMA going into that fight of 5-2. You're taking on an absolute stud. Janai, I think, is her name.
It's Yanni.
Yanni. Oh, I hit the J and didn't even think of that. Yanni Rosario, and she's 6-1. So let's first talk about that fight. That matchup seems you're high level, she's high level, both very high ranked in Tapology for US Northeast. Talk about how that fight came together and what are your thoughts on Yanni?
So actually, she wasn't the main person I was supposed to be fighting. I was supposed to be fighting Paige Wilcox, but she ended up breaking her nose. So we needed to find a replacement for me. The fight's 3.5 weeks out. I'm actually fighting Yanni in my fight for Muay Thai for USKA, but I guess she must have stepped in because we needed an opponent because she was a former champion there. So they said Yanni was going to fight me twice then, it looks like.
Fantastic. Well, that also sets up, it's great, easy interviewing. That sets up the USKA. I go a little bit back. USKA was founded a long time ago and then passed hands from Irv Aldhouse, who I still consider a good buddy of mine, and to Gary, which is Gary Grant, who's an incredible guy. You fought for USKA several times. I think it's cool. It opens up the obvious questions without giving anything away, because obviously you've got two title fights 2 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Is MMA more where you think you have the edge? Is Muay Thai where you think you have the edge? Obviously, you're fighting the same person back to back. I think it's great storytelling because no matter who wins the first one, the second fight, which is the USKA Muay Thai belt, the person who wins is going to think, man, I've got this opportunity to really go 2-0 against this person. And whoever loses is going to think, now, this is my time to get it back, to get that loss back. So I think it's perfect setup. Hats off to Yanni for jumping in for somebody else, and you two for going back-to-back 2 weeks apart. I think it's incredible. So talk about kind of facing the same person in MMA and Muay Thai first. Have you done that before where you fought the same opponent under different rules?
The only time I ever fought a different opponent under different rules was during WKAs. I fought a girl in kickboxing and Muay Thai. So I've experienced fighting the same person twice. It helps fighting the same person twice by learning what their weaknesses are and stuff. And what the worst part about it is, fighting the same person, you want somebody new, right? But hey, like, why not? I mean, it's a fight. It's a different style, so it's not like you're going to have the same rules.
Yeah, and in Pennsylvania, both of them are Pennsylvania fights. The rules are quite different. In amateur Muay Thai, I believe, at least the way they used to be, you could kick to the head. I think that's still the case. And in amateur MMA, you can't kick to the head. So even right there, there's a big difference in what the rule sets allow, I believe. Unless I'm wrong.
So the new rules, as far as I know, I don't know any further. I could be wrong. The option for advanced rules, no headgear, but we can't kick to the head for Muay Thai.
It'll be very similar to MMA in the sense, at least the head kick rule will be similar to MMA. There's other things that will be different. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think if you do wear headgear, you can kick to the head. But I don't want to wear headgear. I'd rather not. I'm used to not wearing it. If I have to not kick to the head just for these fights, whatever, I can handle it. But yeah.
So, yeah, of course. For you, how is balancing life? You're a mother. How is balancing life, working and training? I mean, because you're at a very high level in the amateur MMA and Muay Thai and kickboxing scene. You won WKA tournament before. You won a Cage Wars MMA title. That's why I called you two-time champ, soon to be four-time champ. So how do you balance everything, and kind of where does the energy and the love of combat sports come from?
So balancing it is difficult because I do have my son every other week. Usually in the weeks I don't have him, I focus a lot more on my training. I'm in the gym 5 days a week, 7 days a week. If I'm not at work that weekend, I work every other weekend on top of working every day. My son, I get him in kickboxing too, so it kind of helps when I'm training, he's training. So it kind of keeps him busy. And for the love of my training, I think I explained it in one of the videos before. If you want me to explain it again, I can. I don't mind. My whole karate background.
Yes, well, yeah, I know that part. That's as far as the
Yeah.
history, but as far as yes, and good job, and way to plug the previous interviews. Just go ahead and keep looking on MMA Fancast, and you'll find other great interviews with Alaina. She's been very kind. Thank you, Alaina, for coming on several times. One, I think the first time on, you trace through your karate and how you got into the
Yeah.
mountains. But as far as your energy and your excitement now, what keeps you excited and energetic about combat sports now? Is it because you're learning new skills? It's because you think you have a future in pro? Like what is it? What's keeping you motivated now?
Being my future as a pro, being on a winning streak helps a lot. Learning how to be emotionally in control. When you're not in emotional control, you could be the best fighter out there, the strongest fighter, but if you don't have emotional control, you're gonna get your ass kicked. It's how it happens. I've had that happen to me in one of my first fights. You know, you could training for 5, 7 days a week, and all of a sudden you shut down. You forget everything. So being in emotional control, working on your emotions, that's been what we've been working on in my fight camp now, because it's really been improving my pressure big time, my aggression.
That makes a lot of sense. And as far as working on
Mhm.
that in training, is that sparring, or is that kind of some sports psychology and then sparring? Like, is there kind of a focus on what you're thinking about, or is it more sparring and making sure that you are doing what you need to do as far as your style goes in sparring?
Well, having supportive coaches really helps. But what helps more is the fact that when I do my MMA sparring training, they don't take it easy on me. They mentally break me down until I'm able to overcome my fears. So, my example: somebody pressuring me nonstop, coming forward to strike. Say that gets in my head multiple times in fight camp. That's fine in fight camp, but not when you get into the ring. So they're gonna keep doing it until it finally breaks me, till the point that I'm able to just let it slip my mind and say, okay, this isn't gonna bother me anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm, sure. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. For you, how long ago did you take the fights back to back? Like, I know you fight very frequently. This is one of the things. A WKA tournament is proof that you don't mind fighting even multiple times in the same day. So is this something that you've kind of been looking forward to when you think of April 13th, which is the USKA, March 23rd, or was it kind of almost a surprise that because they're in two different months, sometimes the brain can forget how close they are together? Did you know that they were 2 weeks apart? Has this kind of been something you're looking forward to? Is it more kind of like a happy accident that they're so close?
I knew they were gonna be close because I knew I had the MMA fight, but I've been begging Dave, he's the USK matchmaker, my boyfriend. He keeps begging. I kept begging him. I'm like, hey, I want to get on the USKA card again. I want to get on the USKA card again. And he's like, all right, Elena, right, like I don't have anybody your size. It's hard to match you up because your weight class and your record. And I'm like, no, but I want to get on. So then they found Yanni wanted to do a Muay Thai fight to get more experience in the ring. And I'm like, all right, I'll fight her. Someone close to my record,
Yeah.
it'd be a good match. We got put in for the main event for that card, so I think it'd be awesome.
That's incredible. Way to bury the lead on the main event. I knew there was a title fight. I didn't know that it was main event. So congratulations. I think that's incredible. It's also kind of funny that your boyfriend's the matchmaker and yet you have to beg. Like, it's not like the opposite. You'd think the matchmaker would be like, hey, honey, you're going to fight every card we have because it's like an easy match. But I guess that's part of, your record in any combat sport, particularly female combat sports, it's great to have a great record. Obviously, you've earned it. It's incredible. Yanni, hats off to her as well. But it can make it that much harder because the pool is not deep, and you can't realistically match up against somebody who's 1-0 or 1-2 or something like that with your record. So it really does get a little tricky. So I'm glad you're fighting back to back.
And they combine records too. So I could be 2-0 in kickboxing, but if I have fights in all my other combat sports, that all counts as one record. So
okay. Yeah, that I didn't realize that is how the matchmakers look at it. I know Tapology does not look at that. Tapology keeps track. It'll keep track of grappling, something like the super fights, grappling. It'll even sometimes have kickboxing and Muay Thai up there, but it only keeps an official record of sanctioned MMA, not even like unsanctioned. So yeah, it makes sense. There can be some gray area there, but that's fantastic. What a fantastic thing. So I guess for you, which is gonna be your bigger hometown crowd? Like, which event are you gonna have more people at, or are you saying if they're in for one, they got to be in for two? Is it like a ride or die situation for your friends?
So it's really hard because one, it's not that. I mean, it's kind of local. It's 45 minutes. It's Allentown for me, an hour and a half for Broadheadsville. But she's local. She's more local to both of them. She's from the Allentown, Bethlehem area.
Oh, okay.
So it's her hometown. I used to live there. I don't live down there no more. I moved like 4 years ago. But so I mean, she's probably gonna have the higher crowd, which I don't care. I'm there to fight, That's fine with me. I am trying to sell tickets. I have a lot of my friends interested in the Allentown event, the USKA, because it's closer to us. I have some interest in Broadheadsville, so I'm trying to split my tickets, split the way I'm selling my tickets. It's really hard, honestly. I think that's the hardest part about having two fights back to back is trying to sell tickets.
Yeah, no, it is, and that's exactly what I thought of because it's a great way for them to be able to support you, your friends to be able to support you, but 2 in 2 weeks ends up becoming pretty pricey to be able to do both. So obviously, I'd say to any friend that's watching this, just at least go to one, right? Alaina's gonna love it if you can at least go to one. If you can be the super friend or family member that goes to two, great, but at least go to one because it gives support to you, and it's also nice to hear some people get excited. I've been to events, which happens, particularly the road warriors, the fighters that travel, where the only people clapping for them are their corners, right? Like there's literally not one person in the crowd. At least that won't be the case for you. Really very exciting. So I usually at this point ask what do you want to do next, but with two fights back to back, with only 2 weeks between, we'll get you on probably after both of them ends, because that way, because if I got you on after the MMA fight, you'd still be like, geared in for the USKA. So we'll have you on afterwards to talk about both, and then we'll get into kind of what's next, because you've got quite a lot going on in the next month and a half. So I'm honored that you're coming on. A big shout out to Gary Grant, a buddy of mine. I know he watches these, so I always appreciate it. He's the owner of USKA. A shout out to your boyfriend, which I didn't realize, Dave, Matchmaker Dave. I always appreciate what matchmakers do. It's 99% what matchmakers do is behind the scenes. Even though people think it's just get two people to fight each other, there's so much more that goes into it. So hats off to everybody connected to USKA, and Irv himself, who's still connected, even though he's no longer in charge. Really great stuff. I appreciate you coming back on. You've been listening to Luke Basin for MMA Fancast with Alaina Dutill. And I just realized as I was doing my sign off, do you have any sponsors? And if not, people you want to thank for both fights, since obviously there's a lot of work that goes into these. And we'll wrap up on your gratitude list and sponsors, whatever else you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be looking for sponsors. I just been so busy. I haven't really got a chance to really look into sponsors because of how much I've been training and just everything else going on in my life, working full time. But other than that, shout out to obviously David. He's, been by my side through all this, dealing with my emotions and, working with me every single day. And I love him for that. Shout out to Ellie Mendez. He's my MMA coach. Working on MMA, beating my ass every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, on the ground, striking everything all around just to get me better in the cage. And then a shout out to my boxing coach, Junior Washington, working with me every Tuesday, Thursday, pushing me. Shout out to Keith Neff. He's my jiu-jitsu coach, and also Dylan. Totally lost his last name, but that's okay. And Dylan DeLay, he's one of my jiu-jitsu coaches. He comes from Berks and he comes trains with us. So they all work together to help me become a better fighter overall. So
that's a great list, and I'm sure there's even more as far as if you throw in some of your training partners and things like that. But just the coaches
yeah.
alone, the main training partners, the fact that you're working multiple sports at the same time, the boxing, the kickboxing, the Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, and MMA, there's so many different ways. It's great for your brain. Neuroplasticity is the concept that our brain actually grows additional neural networks anytime we learn something new, like even brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. It, creates that stimulation, which, a lot of people, we get into routines and ruts, and our brain, and that's actually one of the things that they think can possibly lead to Alzheimer's, is our brain hasn't created new neural networks in a long time, because people typically learn and then kind of plateau. So creating new neural networks is always important, whether it's new hobbies, new activities, changing stance in fighting. There's lots of different ways, but for you, you have an endless level of neuroplasticity because you're always learning something. You're in like 6 different combat sports. If you do any karate, that's another one. So always spectacular having you on the show. Can't wait to have you back on to review both of your title fights again. We have the double champ going for a third championship for Maverick MMA 27, which is March 23rd, and then another title, which is the main event for USKA there April 13th in Allentown. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you next time.
Can't wait. Take care.